Alrighty there, gentlemen. Check, check, check.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Had a great run, won 10 in a row. Or had a chance to win 10 in a row. Had a great homestand.
Very important, very emotional win. I had really tears of joy as I sat down after I embraced my team after the win, because I realized, what I've been through mentally to get to this point to win another Wimbledon trophy.
A couple of the voices from over the extended holiday weekend: Djokovic, who won Wimbledon Sunday morning, and Freddie Gonzalez, Brave skipper, after a loss Sunday to the Arizona Diamondbacks that snapped a 9-game win streak. Welcome into Sports Talk. Kevin McCrary and the Professor Tom Hayes at your service. Phil Kornbluth off the SS Corntanic, but it's going to take a week to debrief him. Customs holding him for a week just to make sure he didn't bring anything funky back from some of those Caribbean islands. So we are holding down the fort again this week. Glad you're along for the ride. Hope you had an outstanding 4th of July weekend. I had a great weekend, Pro. Hope you did as well. Just a phenomenal 4th of July weekend. It always works out well when the 4th falls on a weekend. You know, those holidays that happen on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, they just kind of jarble up your work week. Hard to really settle in, but I was actually able to settle in and have just a 10 out of 10 weekend.
Well, it was a decent weekend. The problem is if you're having a great weekend, that means it moves too fast, and before you blink, it's Monday morning. And that's
Well, it
what
felt
happened.
weird, though, with it being on a Friday. And we all worked on Fridays. Graham Pope behind the glass. We all worked on Friday, and hopefully everybody enjoyed our 4th of July football show that we did taped on Friday. But I went to a Coastal Plain League game over at Capital City Stadium and watched Florence and Columbia play, just because I figured it's American to go watch baseball and fireworks on the 4th of July. But it felt like Saturday, and all day Saturday it felt like Sunday. So Sunday was like a bonus day. It felt like it should have been Monday. But it all comes back to reality. Happy to be back in the saddle talking sports again with you on a Monday afternoon as we now get past the 4th of July in the sports. Well, we could call that a distraction, and now we get our eye back on the prize, the college football prize. We are 1 week away from really, really dialing it in terms of SEC Media Days that will crank up next week. We will be in Hoover covering that in Birmingham, and then that leads you right into the ACC Media Days, but sandwiched in there next week, Dabo Sweeney got the itinerary for his golf outing at the reserve at Lake Kiowee next week, and I'll be rolling up the mountain to cover that. So we are going to have plenty to whet your football appetite here over the next 7 to 14 days, so we get closer and closer to preseason camp, training camp in the NFL. We have a lot of exciting things planned for you leading up to the football season and during the football season as well. As always, Sports Talk will have you covered coast to coast, around the state, everywhere that you can't be, we will be there for you. Your eyes, your ears, your voice. That's what Sports Talk will be this football season. We're going to crack the lid on this show, hit the ground running on a Monday. Sports Talk on South Carolina Radio Network. Hit the ground running on a Monday. Glad you're with us tonight on Sports Talk. 800-956-7266. If you want to reach out, connect with us, anything that is on your mind tonight, feel free to get it off your chest. Maybe you've been holding it in since last week. Maybe as you were watching the fireworks explode and you were feeling patriotic, you pondered an important sports topic that you want to share. 800-956-7266 is how you do that. We are never afraid to talk some football as we inch closer to the college football preseason extravaganza known as SEC Media Days, Media Golf Outings, and ACC Media Days. All that coming up in the next 7 days on Sports Talk, actually 7 days from today. And throughout this week, we're going to have lots of outstanding discussion on college football, other topics that we can kick around as well. Speaking of college football, this is watch season, I call it, over the next 11 days. It is the college football watch season. Those watch lists come out on a daily basis right now. Today, you had the Bednarik and Maxwell Award come out. Tomorrow, the Mackey and Remington Trophy Award comes out. The Lou Groza Award and Ray Guy Award come out Wednesday. Bronco Nagurski Trophy, Outland Trophy, Thursday. Friday, Jim Thorpe Award. All these awards just start trickling out here over the next several days. So we'll pass along the various players that pop up on the watch list. 3 Clemson players on that Big Neric Award watch list, a Gamecock on the Maxwell Award. We have an in-state player on the prestigious FCS Walter Payton Award watch list. So we're going to tell you all about those guys coming up later. But want to make sure we take plenty of your phone calls, hear from you, because we haven't talked to you in a few days. We had the tape show on Friday, so we want to reach out and give you the opportunity to reach us. Kerry Rich, the captain, as we call him, former Gamecock basketball captain, and one of the headliners, the founder of the South Carolina Pro-Am, which is cranking up this week. Some great players in that Pro-Am this year over at Heathwood High Episcopal School in Columbia. Clemson players. I think the entire Gamecock basketball team is playing in it this year. You've got some newcomers, some old comers. Devin Downey is playing in it this year, among others. I think they have a Harlem Globetrotter playing out there, so the captain will join us later to talk about that. Mike Morgan will join us as well to talk some Braves baseball. The all-star picks in for the Braves. They have 3 so far, Julio Teheran, Freddie Freeman, and Craig Kimbrell. They could shoehorn another one in if Justin Upton gets the fan vote, and if Braves Nation steps up like they did last year to get in Freddie Freeman, then Upton's got to be feeling pretty good. Now, you also had the anti-Yasiel Puig vote going last year because a lot of people just did not want Yasiel Puig in last year. He was a very controversial addition to the ballot because he had only been called up recently, and his flamboyant shenanigans rubbed some people the wrong way, and ESPN gave him the full Tim Tebow treatment, which also turned people off. But Puig is in on his own merit this year, and I hope he does the home run derby. Just as a selfish aspect, I'd like to see Yasiel Puig in the home run derby. But we'll talk some baseball with Mike Morgan coming up. Don't forget, you can also find us on the web, sportstalksc.com. We've got stories, recruiting stories. Kornblut, now that he's back stateside, he's still not back with us on the air, but I've noticed as he was doing sporadically from a cruise ship, he is now even more frequently updating recruiting there at sportstalksc.com. We've posted stories throughout the day, and we'll continue to post stories throughout the day and night at sportstalksc.com. There's a link to all of our affiliates around the state, close to 30 strong around the Palmetto State. You can click on a link to listen to us live, or, again, for the very brave, down at the bottom of the page, you can watch us live on our video stream of Sports Talk. Bottom of the page at sportstalksc.com. Follow us on Twitter at sportstalksc. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Sports Talk Radio Network. To the phones we go, 800-956-7266. Jay is in Columbia. He's leading us off tonight. Hello, Jay.
Hey there. A couple of weeks ago, I called concerning Coastal Carolina maybe getting into the Southern Conference since Appalachian State and Georgia Southern have left. Of course, the Southern Conference went out and pulled in some mighty powerhouses, VMI and Mercer, and I think East Tennessee State was the third one. I forget now which one it was. But and you all said that you didn't think Coastal would be able to get in because of Wolford, Furman, said, oh, maybe it was
Oh,
It's going to have
that's a known fact that those teams do not want them in.
Okay, but now listen. Let me say that they may not want them in,
Mm-hmm.
but they're going to end up with a rinky-dink conference that's going to be inferior to the Big South if they don't bring some better teams in than what they brought in. That'd be like Florida and Alabama leaving the Southeastern Conference, and instead of taking Clemson and Florida State, who maybe would want to get in, they'd go take East Carolina and Southern Mississippi. That's exactly what it's like.
See, here's what you forget. You know, athletic directors, fans and athletic directors think differently than you. You're thinking competition. They're thinking.
No, I'm thinking revenue at the gate because they got to sell tickets, and they can't. They're gonna have a hard time.
I know
selling
that,
tickets.
but these guys want to win titles, and sometimes you don't. The scary fact is you're scared to let in teams that recruit the same players you recruit, and your chip that you can sell them is the Southern Conference versus the Big South, and it's.
Coastal has a different recruiting base than those three schools do. Wofford recruits a lot of kids from up in the Midwest. Furman recruits a lot of kids from the Atlanta area. The Citadel does recruit a lot of kids from South Carolina, but also from Georgia and North Carolina.
Yeah.
Coastal has a different recruiting base. They primarily recruit from up in the Northeast and in the state of South Carolina. So it's not going to be
and I hear what you're saying.
Those recruiting bases intersect.
But Pro, I do think you have to look at it now with the migration of certain teams in the Southern Conference. You know, Georgia Southern has left the Southern Conference. Davidson has now left the Southern Conference. Have they not? Didn't Davidson bounce out of there?
Yeah, they're in the Atlantic 10.
So I mean, now might be a good time to scoop up. You know, Charleston, and Charleston has left the Southern Conference. Obviously, they're not a football program either, but they're a basketball program. So you have a team here that's in your footprint already. You know, I think it would make a lot of sense to me. Now I know people listening in the Big South offices right now are going, whoa, we don't want. I mean, Coastal Carolina is a burgeoning, you know, I think athletic program on the rise that they might have their sights set higher than even the Southern Conference. They might be thinking, we want to be in what I still like to call D1 because everybody gets D1, but whatever the football playoff level, whatever they're calling it now, but they probably have their sights set on that long term. But short term, maybe they could. They would be an addition, and to me, make the Southern Conference stronger if they were to join.
The two teams in tandem that's looking. Well, what I'm saying is I'm playing devil's advocate because I'm telling you why they're not getting in. Now, here's a key point. I think K-Mac hits a big point. The two teams in tandem that in the years to come probably, if we go Division I together, if you look at the way the landscape is, and I'm not sure how the landscape of college football is going to evolve in the next few years, is Charlotte and Coastal Carolina as two football teams that would join the same conference, whether that be Conference USA, I'm not sure. But I agree with K-Mac. If you look at that Coastal Carolina looks like they're really aiming to go Division I in the long term.
Yeah, and so they might not be looking to make that move. App State left to go D1.
Charlotte goes to Conference USA starting next year in 2015.
Yeah.
Coastal's got a little bit bigger leap to make. But anyway, I just feel like the Southern Conference is cutting off their nose to spite their face by not doing that.
Yeah, they brought in, let's see, they have Mercer in there now for football and basketball. I mean, right now in football, the Southern Conference is Chattanooga, Furman, Mercer, Sanford, the Citadel, VMI, Western Carolina, and Wofford. So that is your Southern Conference for the 2014 football season. You slide Coastal Carolina in there, I think right away they can compete. Joe Moglia has picked up what David Bennett was building and taking it to another level, winning playoff games there, doing very, very well at Coastal Carolina. And that's not the only sport they're good at. They're good at basketball, baseball, and other sports as well.
Rough couple days for PJ. Talk about cancer. Stand by.
Caller was mentioning Coastal Carolina and the Chanticleers in the news today. Junior quarterback Alex Ross, one of 20 players named to today's preseason Walter Payton Award watch list. That award presented by the Sports Network to the most outstanding in NCAA Division I football championship subdivision, also known as FCS, also known to old school people as 1AA,
Yes.
which is an easy way to remember. Ross is from Alpharetta, Georgia, Buford High School, coming off a season where he threw for over 3,000 yards, led the Big South in 7 offensive categories, had 26 scores last season. He has started 15 games and has won 12 of those 15 games. So congratulations to Alex Ross and the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Mentioned there is, it's watch list season, and you take these for what they're worth. They are watch lists, but when we have local guys on these watch lists, we are going to certainly pass it along. The Bigneric Award watch list has 3 Clemson players on it, another testament to just how much people are thinking of this Clemson defense going into the season. And no surprise that Vic Beasley, who was a semifinalist for this award last year, was on the list, along with linebacker Stephon Anthony and defensive tackle Grady Jarrett. And you know what? Those are 3 really good defensive players. Stephon Anthony had the interception to clinch the Orange Bowl for the Tigers. He's a very good linebacker, really started coming into his own. He was highly touted in the recruiting process and was maybe a little, I don't, this isn't a fair term for him when I say a slow riser. Some guys just move at their own pace. He's, going into his senior year, this is when he should be at his best. In his junior year, he was playing at a high level. We expect guys to come in as babies, as freshmen, and dominate. That didn't happen with Anthony.
They don't know
at
their
middle
roles
linebacker.
yet.
That's a hard position to play when you're learning it. But Anthony is, I think, a high caliber. You think of Clemson used to be one of those schools, not Penn State-esque with linebacker you, but Clemson has put out some very good linebackers over the years, and Stephon Anthony is one of the best ones to come down the pipe there in a while. Defensive tackle Grady Jarrett, also on that list. Clemson's D-line looks to be very, very good next season. USC running back Mike Davis is on the watch list for the Maxwell Award, that honor given to the top overall player in college football. Most of the guys on the list were offensive players, running back, quarterbacks, wide receiver. Davis, of course, one of the elite running backs in the SEC last season, really was on a tear middle part of the season. Started wearing down, not breaking down, but wearing down at the end of the year. He just took a beating, an absolute beating in that Missouri game. I was on the sidelines for most of the fourth quarter, the final 6-7 minutes of the fourth quarter, and all the overtimes. I didn't think the guy was going to get up a few times.
And that's the key to having a healthy backup in Brandon Wiles. When Wiles went down and he had to have the bulk of the carries, that's when he wore down. And most running backs, they got mileage on them, and so many carries a year, and they're ready to shut it down.
Another Gamecock on a watch list. We'll tell you about that on the other side of the break.
I got it. I got a list for you. Them vertebrae are no joke. We've all done it. Stand by, stand by.
One more player to mention on a watch list until tomorrow when we continue our watch list tour. But tonight's final name on the Paul Hornung Award watch list. That award, for those of you scoring at home, goes to the best. The official title is the most versatile player in college football, named after Paul Hornung. And USC wide receiver Farrell Cooper's on that list. Of course, he's wide receiver, returns kicks and punts, and lines up behind center and plays quarterback in the Wildcat position.
They call that the Boy Scout Knife Award.
Swiss Army knife?
Yeah, that'll work.
Does a little bit of everything. So that is your watch list update for today. Tomorrow, stay tuned, the Mackey Award, which goes to the top tight end in college football. Think we'll have anybody on that list?
Maybe two people on that list. Buster Anderson and Jarrell Adams.
And Jarrell Adams.
Be on it.
Jordan Leggett. Will Clemson have anybody on that list? Probably not. I wouldn't imagine yet. I mean, they have some guys that could potentially work their way onto that list. And remember, if you're not on the list in the preseason, it doesn't mean you can't be added to the list. And certainly they whittle this thing down as the season progresses. The Remington Trophy, that one, interior lineman, if I recall. Outland, I think, is any lineman. I think, is a Remington just interior center?
Is it the center?
Is that just the center?
I don't know.
I've always got a pop quiz myself. We'll find out tomorrow when the Remington trophy is
you know, back then,
releasing its watch
some
list.
things weird with that Remington when you named after the famous All-American center from Nebraska, is that it was strange that the way Nebraska played it, I think he snapped the football and then the lineman fired out. It's almost like he always fired out first before everybody else. It's a weird setup they had in Nebraska back then when they used to have what do they call it? Leonard's Losers used to call them the big red thrashing machine when they used to just block people. You know, say the football players, the running backs would have 5 yards down the field before they even got touched. By the way you mentioned Paul Hornung, only guy to ever win the Heisman Trophy with a team with a losing record. I think Notre Dame was 2-9 that season.
Yes.
But still, he was the Heisman Trophy. That won't happen again.
No, that would never happen with today's Heisman voters. You have to play on the best team in the country and be the best player on that team.
And
that can happen sometimes, but often you have very good players, if not, great players that are on teams that might lose a couple of games through no fault of the player, and they don't get serious Heisman consideration. Guys like, Larry Fitzgerald. Guys like Megatron, Calvin Johnson, when he was at Georgia Tech. You still have to recognize that these guys just happen to go to other schools, but they still are guys. If you were picking any one player in a college football draft, that's who you would want on your team, just dominant college football players. But the watch list tour continuing, and we'll keep up with all the guys that are of local flair on that. And Pope has confirmed that Remington Trophy does go to a center, so it is exclusive to the center position. Let's see. We'll get to some emails here momentarily as well. Talkback at sportstalksc.com, some that have come through over the weekend, people chiming in on various topics, including things happening at North Carolina. The holiday has kind of kept things quiet with all the investigation continuing with the NCAA. The College of Charleston, they dropped their statement Thursday afternoon late on the Doug Wojcik situation, which is a complete catastrophe. Really, nothing has come out on that since Thursday, but as Gene Sapikoff said on Sports Talk with us Thursday night, highly unlikely that Wojcik is going to make it through that on the other side with a job at the College of Charleston. Just too many things have come out, and names. People in that report with their names attached to it, from the SID to the AD to support staff to players past and present. There really isn't a conceivable way that Doug Wojcik can continue to work there. I mean, how do you work if you're that SI? How do you go and work for him? Or the AD, who might, may or may not be there as well. If you're Glenn McConnell, how do you have a guy employed on your payroll and pay him a lot of money, no less, probably one of the highest paid people at that university? How do you have a guy that says the degree at this school that I work isn't worth the paper it's printed on, essentially? Burn it.
Burn it.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the nail in the coffin right there. And he can't recruit. Let's face it. This story is national. It's gone viral, and it's just very difficult for you to bring players in. They're not going to follow that train.
Today is the first day of the second session of summer school, so more football players have enrolled at South Carolina and Clemson. I'm not sure if their second day of summer school is starting today, but a lot of players are going to be making their way back to campus. Most of the teams will be kind of convening here as they do more of their voluntary workouts, as I like to call them, leading up to the start of training camp. From a basketball standpoint, again, we'll have the captain, Kerry Rich, to talk about the South Carolina program. Mentioned that a lot of South Carolina players are on the roster, almost all of them that are healthy, with the exception of Shameik Shepherd, who is not, even the incoming freshman who has signed their letters of intent. Guys like P.J. Dozier will be playing. With this start of the second session of summer school, James Thompson is not enrolling. Obviously, he cannot. He's still dealing with his legal matter. Frank Martin told, maybe if he mentioned this last week in the group setting, I didn't catch it, but he told David Cloninger the plan all along wasn't for him to enroll in the second semester of summer school anyway, that he was going to come in later. So that's still going to happen. And his, according to the alleged victim's father, The trial was moved to August 6th, and we'll continue to keep things posted there. So that status still in limbo. According to Ryan Wood of the Charleston Post and Courier, Gamecock football players that enrolled in the second summer session today and began classes: cornerback DJ Smith, offensive lineman Donnell Stanley, receivers Terry Guger and Caleb Hines, and tight end Nick McGriff. So they began their academic careers. They can participate in the summer conditioning and voluntary workouts. And the Gamecocks now have 15 members of the 2014 class enrolled and on campus, according to Wood's report. 10 freshmen were enrolled in the first summer semester, and now they've got the other 5 that enrolled in
As
start
it
class
was the
today.
linebackers last year, I guess the key freshmen this year, especially if you look at it on paper because of lack of depth, would be those in the secondary, specifically the cornerback position.
Yeah, you got to think a guy like DJ Smith, Al Harris Jr., who is the son of former Green Bay Packers star defensive back Al Harris Sr. Those are guys that are very big. You know, we replayed on Friday our interview with Lorenzo Ward talking about his defense, and he said they've got to get some things shored up with their secondary, but he thinks that they can be better defensively than they were last year, and that was a defense that had that Clowney guy running around. They also had Kelsey Corals and Vic Hampton. They were very good on their defense. They had some shakiness early with the linebacker play, but they feel like they've solidified that with experience, and as the season progressed, the linebackers played better. And I made this point on the show Friday night. That's a sign of good coaching when a team gets better as the season progresses. We've seen defenses, specifically at South Carolina in years past, under like guys like Tyrone Nix, where they'd start out against the Sisters of the Poor and look like world beaters. By the end of the year, Florida was hanging half 100 on them. The Gamecocks had done the opposite the past few seasons under Lorenzo Ward and even Ellis Johnson, where they improve as the season progresses. And they have some guys on this list, Pro, of freshmen that you've got to think are going to have an opportunity to contribute. You look at Bryson Allen Williams, special teams and depth in that linebacker spot. He's a guy that coaches have mentioned will have a potential opportunity to make an impact as a freshman.
Yeah, they mentioned him as a Norwood type. He put his hand on the ground in certain passing situations, or he can play just roam in the mid-levels of the secondary as a linebacker who could play the pass well. So I'd be interested to see that combination.
What freshman are you most looking forward to hearing about this summer and expect to make an impact at USC and Clemson? Let us know. Time for our Braves report. Mike Morgan on the line with us as the Braves, very hot, winners of 9 of their past 10, did drop their series finale against the Diamondbacks. But Mike, you know, if you're the Braves, you got to be feeling good. You're playing great baseball, winners of 9 out of 10. The downside of that has to be you still look at the standings, and after all that, you haven't been able to put any space really between yourself and the Washington Nationals.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right, because not only are the Braves hot right now, but so is Washington. The two playing some of their better baseball it's coinciding with one another. I would say the difference might be the Braves are really feasting on some poor competition in July. I mean, you look at how this schedule opened up in the month of July. Mets, bad. Diamondbacks, awful. Now at Mets again, bad. At Cubs, awful. Then the All-Star break. A bad Phillies team that looks like it's about ready to dismantle its roster. A bad Marlins team. An awful Padres team. And then finally at the end of July, they go to Los Angeles to take on the Dodgers, which obviously would be good competition. But this is the time, if you're the Braves, to go ahead and go on a run like this. This is the kind of run you'd expect out of a playoff team. I think we're finally going to get that race that we've all been waiting for the last few years, where the Braves and Nationals actually do go down to the wire. It's been painted that way for a while. It's been anticipated for a while, but it really hasn't lived up to the billing because the Nationals have either been disappointing or sometimes one year, of course, the Braves were disappointing. So we'll see if this is the year we finally have that great September/October finish.
Without Evan Gattis, and of course you talked about the weak competition. Is there a ray of hope when you look at this streak that the Braves have been winning without benefiting or leaning on the home run during this streak?
Yeah, I think that's been a big part of the Braves' success. Guys like me have been screaming from the rooftop that you can't just go up there and try to hit home runs all the time and be a championship club. The game has changed, as we all know. The teams that sit there and wait on a 3-run homer are not very successful. And finally, it's not as if the Braves hitting coaches, Walker and Fletcher, have not been preaching this since they've been employed by the Braves, but finally some of the players are starting to listen, where with 2 strikes they are cutting down on their swing, where they are trying to put the ball in play more often, cut down on strikeouts. And that has helped. And I think if they continue to do that, that will only help some more. Because at times this team is really hard to watch when they just go up there and take bad hacks, strike out 9 times, and lose 5-1. That's not good baseball, and that's not championship baseball. But now they're trying to turn the corner with a little bit different philosophy at home plate.
I know baseball is not a one-man team, but isn't it quite ironic that it seems that when Freddie Freeman's bat heats up, the team heats up. For some strange reason, that seems because he went in that slump, the Braves went into collective slump as far as not winning ball games. As soon as his bat reheated, they were ready to roll.
Well, I mean, he's almost the equivalent of a quarterback. And if your quarterback's playing poorly, good luck trying to win games in the NFL or in college football. With Freddie Freeman is slumping, as you said, the rest of the team just kind of follows suit. They need Freeman to be a dominating player in that 3-hole. And when he is, this lineup is good enough to win. As I've said many times, and I will not go back on this, this is not a great offensive team. It is not going to be a great offensive team. It's good enough to win, though, when the pitching is right. And it's a big start for Mike Minor tonight. He's got a chance to pick up some wins tonight, and then later on against the Cubs, he's been pitching very poorly. Maybe he'll get his confidence back.
Mike, the Braves have 3 in the All-Star game, in Tehran and Kimbrel and Freeman. Will they shoehorn another one in with Upton? Will the Braves Nation step up like they did last year for Freddie Freeman?
Well, I'd love to see it from just, I guess, a little bit of a biased standpoint, but I got to tell you, the whole process of calling and voting and texting and tweeting nominees for an All-Star game to me is beyond silly and ridiculous.
The no fun police, Mike Morgan. Just bitter. Just
If
bitter.
that's your idea of fun, I
you
mean,
and your cell phones, kiddies.
When I was a kid, I used to vote for my favorite video on MTV on a 900 number.
All right.
Your parents love
But
that.
I was 10 years old. I think now we can come up with a better way to decide who gets the final spot on the roster. That's just me.
Yeah, Mike, we appreciate it. We'll catch up with you tomorrow night. Braves and Mets and the Big Apple tonight. Mike and our Braves report brought to you by Whit Suber of Home Shop Realty, where you pay less for more. Call 803-518-3888 today. Also brought to you by Founders Credit Union, helping you attain your financial goals. Braves a half-game lead on the Washington Nationals in the NL East standings.
The summer school prom, cuz. I don't know. I'm with you. It's really, really late. It's July. Stand by.
The latest odds for winning the national championship next season are out. Bovada has their national championship odds for the 2014 season. Anybody want to take a stab at who the odds-on favorite to win the national championship this season?
Well,
I got to get out of the habit of saying BCS national
it's
championship.
got to be
thing.
Florida
Good
State.
Lord, you're right. 11-2 odds.
Mm-hmm.
For the Seminoles, Alabama is next in line, 6-1 odds to win the national championship.
Didn't Alabama breaking in a new quarterback? How did they get those odds? I mean, I know they got a team, and I know they reload, but
Nick Saban.
But I'm telling you, it's a new quarterback.
Oregon is third, 8-1 odds for the Oregon Ducks. Auburn at 9-1 is fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Other notables, how about Georgia at 16-1?
Another new quarterback being broken in.
Ohio State, by the way, 10-1. And Oklahoma State's 12-1. Let's see what else we have. LSU's 18-1 on the list. South Carolina 25-1 odds. Is that the best? Did they? I do not remember their odds last year. Maybe they were about the same.
They might be about the same.
Yeah, about the same as it was for them last season.
And Oregon, I wonder why Oregon continues to get the love. They can't get by Stanford. Yeah, well, yeah, but still, Mariota is one guy, and he couldn't get by Stanford. So it'd be interesting to see how they play it, because to me, if you want to look at college football and the battle of who wins in the trenches, there is no better game to watch than Oregon and Stanford. Okay, fine. You want to spread the field? Bring your speed all over creation. We'll bring in 3 and 4 tight ends and run it down your throat and pass when we want to. And Stanford is one with that, going back to the old school style. There's interesting contrast of styles when those two teams get together.
Some other odds in case you want to fly out to the desert and put some money down before the football season. Florida's 40-1 odds. Mississippi, Ole Miss 40-1 as well. Notre Dame is sitting at 40-1 odds. Texas 40-1. Michigan 50-1. Nebraska 50-1. Clemson.
Michigan
Michigan
State.
State's 25-1.
Okay.
Skipped
Clemson
over that.
is
I'm only hitting up.
25-1.
No, Clemson's 66-1.
66-1. That's
Clemson is 66-1.
Breaking in.
Missouri 66-1. Texas A&M is 66-1. Tennessee is 100-1. Mississippi State is 150-1. Arkansas 300-1. Boston College 500-1. The worst odds I see on this list: Rutgers 1,000-1. UCF, defending BCS champions, even though they lost their quarterback, 500-1 odds. So there you go. Some of the odds for the national championship for the 2014 college football season.
Have you learned how to dribble yet? No, it's fine. You can have a locker anyways. It'll be great. So what you need is you need Ray Lewis and Tony Siragusa on the other side of the field. You just say hike a lot. Hand the ball off to Jamal Lewis. And I can't remember his Todd Heap. There we go. Toss it to Todd Heap every now and then.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Oh, they're already starting the campaign for Justin Upton on the Braves broadcast.
Yeah.
They don't hide their homerism on the Braves television broadcast. The hashtag vote JUp. Braves fans are being rallied around Justin Upton. Leads the Braves in home runs and RBI. He's had a very nice season, no doubt about it. 17 home runs, tied for the fourth most in the National League. Vote JUp. And now the pregame interview with Justin Upton.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, the other players are lucky they're still not on the Superstation because they've really been hyping it up at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Braves Nation, we saw it last year when Freddie Freeman ran away with it. I do think that was one of those deals where everybody got fired up trying to top Yasiel Puig, who most people thought would get it because he's in a big market in Los Angeles. Not that Atlanta's a small market by any stretch.
No, I think Atlanta's
a huge
not
market.
number 10.
But Braves Nation goes much beyond the Atlanta city limit, as we all know. Braves country is in Georgia. It's in Alabama. It's in South Carolina, parts of North Carolina, parts of Florida. It is a big footprint that the Braves have.
And people
Tennessee
still remember the Superstation, and they got fans all over the place who remember those days in the Superstation. And still, a lot of people with the cable just dial it up if they want a Braves game anywhere in the country. So it'll be interesting to see how this is done this year.
You can follow along on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Cool Hand Luke tweets us. He's got a question about the scoreboard show this year. He wants to know if we're going to have it. He says he hopes so because he likes all the fans that used to call in every week. And the answer to that question is maybe. We are still putting together our fall lineup. Yeah, there's a chance. A lot of things in the works right now, and at the appropriate time we'll certainly announce that. And that's a popular show, we know, one that we enjoy doing. I can tell you this, high school football will be in the forefront of our coverage. That's what I can tell you right now. We'll be announcing our official programming and segments coming up here at a later date. But I will tell you this, just to drop a little hint, not trying to be too coy, just a little coy, but high school football will be a big part of our coverage, like it is every year. We never have ignored high school football. There were some changes with the programming last high school football season, but we will be spending a lot of time covering high school football like we always do. High school football in our state is a very big deal and will be again this season. At Sports Talk SC, if you want to follow along, you can also drop us an email, talkback@SportsTalkSC, website sportstalksc.com. There is a poll question posted on our Sports Talk website, and you can chime in on our Sports Talk poll question. We encourage you to do so. Clemson's regular season win total will be 12, 11, 10, 9, or 8. Give us a vote at sportstalksc.com.
Big old brick right there in your face. Boom, right out on the road. It's nice looking, yeah. That's your favorite, isn't it, Pro? Promote the military-industrial complex. Yay.
Some people call these the dog days of summer. Everybody's just looking for some kind of fix to get them to football season. Well, there's a great one that's about to crank up. This thing has grown each and every year. It's getting bigger and better. It's a SC Pro-Am. If you love basketball played at a high level and you love to have something fun to do during the summer, this is for you, and we're going to talk about it throughout the summer, updating the games, which crank up this week. The captain, Kerry Rich, who puts this thing together each and every year, joins us now, former Gamecock basketball standout, and now just a basketball icon. Now he's like the mayor of basketball in South Carolina, the governor of basketball, El Presidente of basketball in South Carolina. How you doing, Captain?
I am doing wonderful. I'm loving it. Just keep going.
I was running the Fuhrer. I mean, then I was going to start like the dictator. They were going to start getting bad after a while, so I figured I would stop because you're too well liked. Yeah, you're too well liked to be called the dictator. But yeah, your connections in basketball in this state and really the region are unparalleled. And the rosters came out, and you can go to our Twitter feed. I'll also link it on our Facebook page here momentarily. And I know, Captain, NCAA rules, you can't talk about the college players on the rosters, but I can say there are a lot of really good college players locally around the state and region that people will want to see. And it's a pro-am, so the college players are the amateurs. There's some pros. There's a Harlem Globetrotter on one of these rosters.
Yes, by the name of Tyrone Beatty, former standout athlete over at Benedict College, but you're talking about a guy that gives up off the floor. You're talking about a guy that draws a crowd. You're talking about a guy that spectators enjoy coming to see play and just make fantastic plays in space. He's that guy. But what a wonderful time of the year for me, for us, my group. We've been looking forward to this week for a long, long time, and we're looking forward to making this year the best of the 3 years we've had it.
You got an all-star lineup of coaches, too, looking at the 6 teams, actually 7 teams that you have, right? 8 teams, I'm sorry. Let me get it right eventually. But some of the names that you've tracked down to Coach Aaron Lucas, everybody will remember him from his R&E in South Carolina days. Travis Williams, the former South Carolina State Bulldog. Jamie Watson, another former Gamecock. Terry Dozier, who has all sorts of connections to the Gamecocks. Now you've landed a heck of JoJo English also coaching a team, so you have a who's who coaching these teams as well.
Yeah, and there was a concerted effort to do that. We want to serve as a support staff for the coaches across the state, and I might add, the coaches across the state have been 100% on board. I could not get something like this done without the support of the coaches, from Brad Brownell, Frank Martin, Cliff Ellis, Eddie Payne from USC Upstate, Mike Young, Wofford. They all have been overly supportive with helping get this thing done. And the reason I wanted to go out and get those type of coaches, I want to make sure our college guys get coached up by guys that have been there and done that, so to speak, guys that share a perspective and an insight that's a little bit different from the norm. And when you have college guys that are coming to play during the summer, let's just face it, they're away from their coaches so they can let their hair down just a little bit. We want to still make sure they get coached up properly. Certainly don't want guys to come over and build bad habits. We want guys to build habits that are going to transfer directly to the upcoming basketball season, which is why it's important for those guys to be the coaches. And that's the one thing that I constantly talk about when it comes to former athletes or current athletes. There's a fraternity, there's a camaraderie that's shared, and the easiest thing for me to do was to pick up the phone and call each and every last one of those guys and ask for their assistance, and it was done. So I'm happy that all guys are on board, and just happy that they're going to be able to offer an insider perspective that's a little bit different than the norm.
Well, Captain, you said have the college players let their hair down, but I see some guys who have some pro experience on these lineups, and those are the guys that usually have their elbows up. so as far as the officiating is concerned, would you say that in the pro-am it's a little bit more physical than we would see in the college game, just because you do have some seasoned guys who've had pro experience playing?
Absolutely. And we're going to simulate the college game as much as possible. We'll introduce it for the first time in 3 years, the 35-second shot clock. And we'll also have the best officials from the area, officials that have not only high school experience, but officials that also call and officiate college games. So we'll have 3 going, and they understand that guys are there to play. They don't want to hear the whistle blown every other possession, and they've done a really, really good job when it comes to that. But what makes me so excited, guys, when it comes to this event that we put together, guys like Trey Miller, the point guard from Newberry that won the state title last year, going to USC Aiken, Tyrese Bryce, the stud athlete up at South Point the last few years, who's also going to USC Aiken. These guys now all of a sudden get to go up against a Devin Downey in live competition in front of a crowd, something that they probably dreamt of, something that they thought about long and often, and now they get that opportunity to play against a Devin Downey and some Darius Thornwell on the big stage in front of a crowd. And those are the type of things that I really enjoy about this event, just the opportunity that so many kids that aren't fortunate enough to play in the SEC or play in the ACC, guys that they see from afar on television. Well, now guess what? You get to go up against these guys up close, live and personal. And the one thing that I want to forewarn those guys is that, you know what, it's probably going to be a little bit different in person than what you see on TV. So I look forward to that part of it.
Now, as far as the players are concerned, how much time do they have with their coaches before you actually start the competition? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, are we going to see strictly man-to-man, or are we going to see some strategy employed, maybe with some switching defenses as we go along?
We'll probably see man-to-man. That's what we want to see, man-to-man. You don't really have time to implement a zone or go over the principles, the fundamentals of a zone. So we're going to stick to playing man-to-man. And will you see strategy? Absolutely. Just think about the coaches that are in place. These guys are competitive. They don't want to lose. And while they will allow those guys to make plays and play basketball, when it gets crunch time and when guys get out of line, you can look forward to those guys calling a timeout, just making sure things are back in order. And as the game gets closer, you know what? Those guys will implement some strategy and find a way to win the game, because at the end of the game, you know, guys are still congregating and they convene all in that one spot at Heathwood Hall, and you don't want to be on the bad end of a loss. So there will be some strategy, highly competitive, which is why, again, I handpicked those particular guys to be the coaches over at the SC Pro-Am.
Now, Captain, in years past, were high school players involved in this year in years past, and they're not in it this year? Or am I remembering that's a change this year?
Yeah, we did change it this year. One of the main reasons we changed it is because the month of July is the biggest month of the year for high school student athletes, especially the high school student athletes who are highly touted, those guys that are going to be recruited by many of the schools across the country, and they're not going to miss that AAU tournament to play in our summer league. And the numbers were just so high, it just wouldn't be fair to leave out college guys, leave those guys off the roster for one of the high school student athletes that's probably never going to show. So we just decided to do against the high school student athletes being a part of it and focusing more so on the college guys and the guys who are 2, 3, 4, 5 years removed from playing college basketball.
And the games crank up Thursday.
Thursday starting at 6 o'clock. We'll play 3 games on Thursday and 4 games on Sundays starting at 2 o'clock at Heathwood Hall. All
the games at Heathwood Hall. And, Captain, we'll keep up with this and keep tracking you down throughout the SC Pro-Am. You do a great job with it, and really looking forward to seeing how all this shakes out. Some great players that you've lined up once again, my friend.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate all of the things you guys do for the state of South Carolina when it comes to getting the word out about sports, and certainly my event. So thank you so much.
We love talking basketball. Thanks, Captain. We'll catch up with you next week.
Stand by.
Again, thanks to Kerry Rich, SC Pro-Am. It's cranking up this week, and we have put a link to the rosters and more information on our Facebook page, Sports Talk Radio Network on Facebook. And they've really done a heck of a job with the rosters. The team that Aaron Lucas is coaching has, among others, Ty Johnson, USC point guard, very good player from USC Upstate, Torrey Craig, maybe the best all-around basketball player in the state last season. He was very good. Travis Williams' team has Carlos Powell. Everybody will remember him from his playing days at South Carolina. Jamie Watson has Sindarius Thornwell and Demetrius Henry, among others, on his team. And Murphy Holloway, also on that team, former Dutch Fork and Ole Miss, and for a cup of coffee.
Well,
South Carolina practice player.
It's going to get physical if he's there. It's going to get physical if he's there.
Devin Downey's playing on a team with Tamarcus Blanton and Jermaine Johnson, former College of Charleston standout. He played for the less abrasive College of Charleston regime down there. And Downey, anytime he gets the ball in his hands, Austin Ajuka also on that team. But Downey, he's still as electric as ever with the basketball in his hands. So very good players on the team. Terry Dozier is not coaching PJ. I was checking to see if PJ Dozier was going to be on Terry Dozier's team, but he is not. He's got Michael Carrera and Dwayne Notice on that squad, and Stacy Wilson from Murray State, who's now playing pro ball. But PJ Dozier will not be playing for his father.
No, well, I think there were no high school kids this year because I think it's Marcus Stroman played last year for one of the teams.
Yeah, and everybody would like to see some of those. Yeah, like we'd like to see Seventh Woods go out there and go against some of these guys. But it makes sense when you have the AAU and you have commitments. The high school guys can only play a game or two, and some of these rosters. Now, sometimes other guys make it through. I know they've had quote unquote almost guest appearances. This is a sanctioned event. It's definitely an NCAA certified summer, but the rosters can be a little flexible. Maybe they add some players. I know Captain, talking to him, he mentioned some names of guys are still working on. We can't release them, but it's only going to get better as the summer goes, and they do a heck of a job. I mean, don't be surprised if you see a highlight from one of these games at Heathwood Hall on ESPN potentially. I mean,
probably, yeah. And even though they don't have high school kids this year, you wouldn't have seen, if I'm not mistaken, Seventh Woods is still on the shelf with a broken wrist. So he is
on the shelf right now.
His summer is kind of taken with, I guess, running right now.
Frank Martin was talking about why all of his players are involved in it this year, and he said he likes to get his players some competition, really good competition, and what he likes about it is it in the community, and it gets people talking about basketball in the Midlands area, the 803 area code, and beyond. You've got players from Clemson and Presbyterian and Charleston, and that's not lost on him, the importance of getting people in the state of South Carolina talking about basketball when they're not normally talking about it, as they try to get people excited about hoops again in the Palmetto State.
So are we now allowed to start talking about conspiracy with the whole Cavs #1 pick thing? Or is that off the table? Wiggins. Yeah, it's a footnote now. That's the key. Sure. Well, that's why Stern in the game made sure he got Wiggins and Kyrie still there, with already re-signed, and Deion Waiters at the 2. Well, who cares? He didn't have one in Miami either. At the end of the day, all that legacy stuff aside, just pure basketball, I mean, it really just doesn't make that much sense anymore in Miami. D Wade's banged up, can barely even play anymore. Bosh has just been out of position this entire time there. They got by with all that, because they're so athletically gifted. But you remove Wade, that was just on talent alone. I mean, just the basketball pieces really don't work anymore. He got the title monkey off his back, in his mind. So, I mean, now the only thing left is to really accomplish something in his career worth noting, which would be going to Cleveland and giving them a title and washing away, the decision mess. Dan Gilbert will write his Twitter love fest repentance. That's the key. They talk tomorrow. LeBron was found out in the Miami Cove yesterday. Couldn't swim.
Braves and Mets underway. No score, second inning. Mets wearing these goofy camouflage. It just looks weird. Not that I have any problem with camouflage per se. You like the camo uniforms?
Not on a Monday night and not after July 4th. If this been July 4th, I could see it. Now, I guess the Mets were on the road during July 4th, but still.
The camo's not synonymous with July 4th. I get.
Well, military, salute the military.
Red, white, and blue.
But here's the problem. It's what I feel is, and maybe I'm being cynical as I get older, but the idea is not to salute certain people. The idea is to sell merchandise. And let's face it, Mom, I want that camouflage Mets jersey. Yeah. I mean, everything is to set up to sell merchandise, to push merchandise.
NBA free agency is turning into a circus again. LeBron James, The Decision, Part 2. The sequel's never as good as the original, and the original here was pretty bad.
Except for Godfather 2.
Yeah, that was actually on yesterday. Did you catch any of it?
No,
it was on. I had that on until my wife made me go in another room because she doesn't like all the violence. But,
okay.
That was on yesterday. But anyway, the LeBron James decision, everybody's following that. Is he going to go back to Cleveland? Is he going to stay in Miami? Is he going to land somewhere else? I don't think he lands anywhere other than Miami or Cleveland, because he would be a fool to go anywhere else other than those two spots. I mean, you could argue he'd be a fool to leave Miami, where all he's done is go to 4 straight NBA finals, winning 2. Now they lost decisively to the Spurs, but it doesn't take much to rebound from an embarrassing finals performance and win it the next year. They do have questions. Bosh was offered a max deal by the Houston Rockets, who think that pairing anybody with Dwight Howard and James Harden will help, and they need help, but I still wouldn't put in the Western Conference Houston as a title team.
And then you got to remember that Bosh is a Texan. He's from the Dallas area originally.
He's from that area. But if he left, it could cause another domino effect where Carmelo Anthony decides to go to Miami and team up with LeBron James. But for LeBron's legacy, and that's what players like LeBron James and Kobe Bryant, all those elite players are thinking about their legacy. Maybe all players to a certain degree think about their legacy, but if he goes back to Cleveland where they have all these pieces in place, I mean, he would be going back to probably a better Cleveland team than he left, I would imagine, in terms of talent. When you have Kyrie Irving, you just had the #1 pick in the draft, and you got Wiggins from Kansas, who's going to be a very good player.
Well, see, the thing is, Wiggins, I see the way he plays, and it's still early in his career, and that's fine. That's fine. But a guy like Kyrie Irving, who the ball is attached to him like an umbilical cord, I can't see him and LeBron on the court together playing together for some reason, because both of them demand the basketball. I mean, to a great extent. I just can't see it unless LeBron defers and say, look, I'm going to play forward, and I just want the ball in the low post, and he plays a more of a back-to-the-basket game, which he has perfected since he's been in Miami. It would be interesting to see if he does that, but I just feel with Pat Riley's influence, he's going to go back to Miami.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Gilbert, who's a colossal moron, the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who finally mysteriously got that awful letter that he wrote when LeBron left, saying Cleveland would win a championship before LeBron, blah, blah, blah. But, LeBron, he's a Cleveland guy. That's his hometown. You know he would love to bring a title to that decrepit sports town. And I'm not talking about the town, all the people from Ohio. But from a sports standpoint, Cleveland has been through the ringer, from the Indians to the Browns, to the Cavs, Michael Jordan over Elo. I mean, the Cubs are lovable losers, but at least in Chicago they had the Bulls and the Blackhawks. You have teams that struggle, but usually, Boston, with all the struggles of the Red Sox and the Bambino curse, well, they still had the Patriots, and they still had the Boston Bruins that were at least winning titles. Cleveland hasn't had a title of any kind.
It says 64.
So they need something right now, and LeBron could really help his legacy. Then you have Carmelo Anthony, who I think at the end of the day is going to take the money, $32 extra million, and go back to New York with Phil Jackson. Again, you got to look at the guys in play behind the scenes here as well. And Phil Jackson somewhat makes up for the fact that James Dolan is a complete moron in New York. And I think $32 million in Phil Jackson and a chance to throw up half 100 shots every game and nobody really say anything about it is probably going to be enough to entice Carmelo Anthony to come back. The Lakers, everybody over the weekends talking about them being in play, but I still don't really see that. And I know Carmelo and Kobe are friends, but they both like to score, and they both like to score in isolation. So what are you going to do? Have Kobe and Melo trading possessions and 3 other guys standing around watching them? Randall, the first rounder, rebounding and kicking it out to the other one to try another ISO play. I don't know. They were 1 and 2 in the NBA in ISO plays over the course of the past several seasons. So now we'll see how that plays out. Being an admitted Laker fan, as bad as last season was, it's an experiment that I would have no problem watching transpire. I'll say that. Well, I'd rather watch that than DJ Swaggy or whatever these clowns they have out there being morons week in and week out last season, and en route to losing 70 games. I would rather have Carmelo Anthony and Kobe Bryant punching each other at half court for entertainment next season than piling up losses.
Here's the problem I see with both of them. From a logical standpoint, they've made their money, and if they're chasing rings, the last team I'm going to is a team in the Western Conference. My easiest path to the NBA Finals is to go through the East. So first of all, I can't see either one going out west unless they're assured of a title. Now, you look at a lot of talent that Houston has, but a lot of that talent is incompatible. Guys getting in each other's way. So I see, with the big influence, and these are guys probably the biggest challenges of their career, is to draw Carmelo back to the Knicks where he can get the max 5-year contract. And LeBron wants the max contract 5 years. Remember now, the team that had your rights can offer you the 5 year. A new team can only offer you the 4 year. That's the way it works.
4 year, Lakers could offer Carmelo 97,
Right.
the Knicks can offer
and then offer him a quick opt out.
But here's the thing about it, though. I mean, and it's a little misleading because that's guaranteed money. But after 4 years, Carmelo Anthony's not going to not be able to play basketball anymore.
Right.
So he would conceivably be able to get another contract that would make up that difference. And but
that's why you give him an early opt-out.
It's money on the table, which is what all these guys in Miami had, was the early opt-out, and there you go again, because after 4 years you might want to push the reset button anyway and see if you can get another contract. But this is the big opportunity for Carmelo Anthony. He's in the prime. He's going to play the prime of his career in this next contract. I don't blame him for going around from team to team to team. His best, I would tell him, stay in New York and build a winner there and bring a title there. Or go to Chicago and be on a championship caliber team day one. That's your call. But if he wants to go out to L.A. and enjoy the sunshine and get yelled at by Kobe Bryant for 2 years, I'd love to see that too as a Laker fan, because it's Hollywood. I'm always
let's face it, everybody
story.
talks about Chicago, and I'm one of those skeptics, and I hate to be negative, but I think we've seen the last, and I may be proven wrong, and I hope I am. I think we've seen the last of a slashing, just devil-may-care Derrick Rose. You don't know what Derrick Rose is going to show up. So if I'm Carmelo, I'm kind of nervous about Chicago. They have a solid team. They play tremendous defense. And maybe the one thing Carmelo can learn while he's in Chicago is how to play some defense, because you're not going to play for that coaching staff without playing some D.
And with the Charlotte Bobcats, now the Charlotte Hornets, new name, same problems for them. P.J. Hairston, former North Carolina Tar Heel, who they drafted in the first round, arrested over the weekend, got into an altercation at a Durham YMCA with a high school senior, allegedly punched him. And that was one of those, I am a second chance fine. He's too close to home. He's too close to the bad element.
All NBA players already made a note. Soft. If high school player can get in his head,
Joakim's slowly become one of my favorite players in the league over the past couple of years. I hated him at Florida.
time for recruiting. You know you got to love it. It's here. A big, action-packed post-4th of July recruiting report that's hotter than a firecracker. Defensive lineman DJ Jones out of East Mississippi Junior College plans to announce his college decision December 13. He has a top 10 in no particular order that's been in place since last month. That top 10 is Tennessee, Alabama, Clemson, USC, Auburn, Southern Cal, Florida State, Ole Miss, Florida, and Georgia. The Vols are the leader right now. Jones plans to have a final 5 by the start of the season. Actually, I should say that 5 is in order. So it's Tennessee 1, Alabama 2, Clemson 3, South Carolina 4, Auburn 5, followed by the others. Clemson and USC continue to do their work with the former Wren High standout. He talked with Marion Hobby last week, and he said they've got a spot waiting. USC recruiter Deke Adams also keeping in close contact. Now, the 4th of July weekend combined with the 2-week dead period running through Sunday brought some calm to the football recruiting world, but things are going to crank up this week. One of the big reasons why is year number 4 of the opening, which is taking place out in Beaverton, Oregon, where the Nike headquarters are. ESPN is bringing together 162 of the top prospects from around the country. 4 of 2015 Clemson commitments are among those that are going to be there. Wide receiver Deion Kane, offensive lineman Noah Green, offensive lineman Mitch Hyatt, and linebacker Chad Smith. USC's 2015 commitment class will be represented by linebacker Sherrod Pittman and defensive back Mark Fields. Also in the group of 162, linebacker Michael Barnett of Woodland, who is a Florida State commitment. Notre Dame has the most commitments in the event with 10. 8 of the uncommitted prospects have indicated they may announce a decision during the opening, which runs today through Thursday. And one of them for USC and Clemson fans that are going to be keeping a close eye on, running back A.J. Turner out of Centerville, Virginia. He's had the Gamecocks and Tigers in his top group along with Ohio State, Michigan State, and Virginia. He has not named a favorite, though some recruiting observers are predicting him for the Gamecocks. He said Sunday night he was going to announce Tuesday at a time to be determined, but today he pushed that back to Thursday. He said the 5 remain in the hunt, and he has not made a final decision. He has visited the Gamecocks twice, most recently in April. He's expressed positive feelings for the Gamecocks and running backs coach Everett Sands. Clemson was the first school to offer Turner, and he camped with the Tigers last summer. He also has strong feelings for Clemson recruiter Brent Venables. Defensive back Antonio Parks out of Louisiana committed to Arizona over the weekend. Clemson was targeting him as well. He had talked about committing to the Tigers at one point, as a matter of fact. A basketball note, Virginia Tech has offered 2015 prospect Oldsmar Christian, Florida guard Durante Jenkins. He's out of Oldsmar Christian in Florida, and he's formerly of Lake Marion High School. Durante Jenkins now picking up an offer from Virginia Tech. And a women's basketball note. That's how in-depth we've gone with our recruiting report tonight. We're hitting women's hoops as well. St. Mary's and New York City Heat forward, or NYC Heat forward, Jordan Augustus, says she's down to St. John's, Miami, and South Carolina. Rutgers and Georgia Tech. She's a 5'11" out of New York. And, of course, she is a Gamecock target of Dawn Staley, who has been reeling in prospect after prospect there in her program and has turned the Gamecock program into a national, would it be an overstatement to call them a national power at this point? They were a number 1 seed in the tournament. Yeah, burgeoning power might be fair. You pick up one number 1 seed, that really doesn't make you a national power, but they do appear to have staying power, landing Asia Dozier, the number 1 commitment. Or is it Asia Wilson?
Asia Wilson.
Asia Wilson, yeah, the number 1 prospect in the country out of Heathwood Hall, who committed to Staley. They did not get the North Carolina transfer, Deliana DeShield's daughter, Diamond DeShield. She ended up at Tennessee. But Dawn Staley, people think she's got Final Four caliber talent on her team. Some people thought she might have had that last year, a potential run, but that DeShields girl kind of thwarted that both times she played the Gamecocks last year.
Some people would think that probably that was addition by subtraction because she's got to have the ball. She's a volume shooter, and I'm not so certain in her system that's what Dawn Staley wants. But she would have taken the talent to see if she could mold it into her system. The key point here is you got a burgeoning power when you can negotiate. I guess they have done it already, even though they haven't been here to talk about it, a home and home with Connecticut. So if they're playing UConn, you know that they got the attention of Auriemma.
Yeah, maybe Auriemma they could start a feud. He seems to feud with every coach that he squares off against these days. The Mets with an early 1-0 lead on the Braves in the Big Apple. Is that Dice K on the mound? Remember when he was going to be the next big thing?
That's Dice
in baseball? K. Some guys pan out and some guys don't. Tanaka has really lived up to the hype with the Yankees. That guy has had all but one of his starts has been a quality start, and he's 12-3 this season. So he lived up to it, or has thus far, but Dice K, not so much.
The Yankees would be buried without Tanaka. Because what is he, about 12-3 or something? He is
12-3. If you're just tuning in, the big stories that we passed along, the highlights, Clemson has 3 players on the Chuck Bednarik watch list: Vic Beasley, Stephon Anthony, Grady Jarrett. USC running back Mike Davis on the Maxwell Award watch list. That's for the top overall player in college football. And wide receiver Farrell Cooper on the Paul Hornung watch list. And Coastal Carolina junior quarterback Alex Ross on the Walter Payton Award watch list. Yes, it is definitely watch list season. Mentioned that it's been a rough 24 hours for the Charlotte Hornets. We talked briefly about the unfortunate incident involving P.J. Harrison, the first-round pick in a pickup basketball game in Durham, North Carolina, where he allegedly punched a high school senior. Goodness, a senior. You're in the NBA. You're a first-round NBA pick, and you're slugging, allegedly, seniors in a pickup basketball game. Okay. To make matters worse today for the Hornets, Josh McRoberts let them know that he's going ahead and taking his talents to South Beach. So they got in trouble with a former Tar Heel, and then a former Dookie gave him the old heave-ho, and he's going to sign a 4-year contract worth $23 million when the moratorium on free agent signings ends. So he's going to be a Heat.
And he was a former Laker at one time.
He was.
But he has reinvented himself with long hair, scraggly beard, looks tough, and playing tougher. One of the things people don't understand is they'll sit there and say, well, they got McRoberts, so what? You need glue guys. And glue guys are the guys who don't have to have plays called for them, but they know how to play team ball, play defense, and rebound, and do what's necessary. And that's the key to any roster in the NBA, because everybody can't be a superstar, but guys can defer and be glue guys. And people will laugh at that, saying, what are the Heat doing? That's a good, solid player. And they saw that in the playoffs because the Heat had problems with him, even though they swept Charlotte. You could tell when McRoberts was off the floor because Charlotte had no chance. At least they were fighting when McRoberts was on the floor.
Yeah, he's one of the better passing big men in the NBA. In fact, I think he averages more passes per game than any big man in the NBA, if you're in a stats like that. But, if you have LeBron James and those other guys around, which we don't know, could be a big pickup. We'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same place here on Sports Talk. We have another big show planned for you. Thanks to the professor, Tom Hayes. Thanks to Graham Pope behind the glass. Kevin McCrary here wishing you a great Monday night.